viewers, and welcome to another episode of Universal Energies. And as you know, this program is all about giving the tools to you out there so you can find out and make your own way in life. Find out about your beliefs, your faiths, find out about the healing energies you have, and turn your lives around maybe to a positive situation. You have the references that you can go on all the different programs, and you can make your own mind and even judge from one program to another. My guest today is Helen McRoberts. Pleased to meet you, my dear.
Thank you.
And Helen's going to introduce herself in a minute, and she will go through the situation like we normally do, whereby I'll ask her all the relevant questions, how she got started, etc, etc. And then we'll go through the situation of what Helen actually does, and it might surprise you. There's a lot of strings to Helen's bow, and it's really good, and it will really make you, I'll give you those tools to understand and maybe go further on this healing road yourselves. Then after that, of course, we'll go on to the faith and beliefs and how Helen got to where she is now with maybe a different understanding or a different denomination that she has. So let me ask you, Helen, to start with, would you like to introduce yourself?
That would be lovely, thank you. My name's Heather.
So we've really gone well to start with, haven't we? But there you go, that's me, you know.
I'm, as you can tell by my accent, I'm from Northern Ireland.
I could never tell.
But I'm a resident of Felixstowe. I have been a healthcare professional for 40 years and a wee bit more, but I'm not going to add that really. And I have been a therapist for probably about 30 of those years.
Right, okay, that's fair enough. And I know that you are very much into dementia, so would you like to say a little bit about that and how you support it?
Yes, that's lovely. I am chairman of Felixstowe Dementia Action Alliance, which I started June last year, so nearly a year we've been going. The Dementia Alliances, they have been started or encouraged by the Prime Minister. He had a thing called the Prime Minister's Challenge in 2012, David Cameron. He wanted all the towns in the UK to be dementia friendly. And monies were given by the government to the Alzheimer's Society to support this. So about 3 years ago I was living in Hadley and attended a day and learnt more about this and decided that I would form the first Dementia Action Alliance in Hadley. And they ask for criteria and to work towards, so to set up a steering group and have people, and it's all volunteer based, to raise awareness about dementia. I'm sure you've heard of things like Dementia Friends.
Yes, yeah.
So the Alzheimer's Society train people to be able to deliver those information sessions. So that's one of the things that we do. So when I moved here, I decided that I wanted to start one. We've been very successful. We've just had Dementia Awareness Week. We put on lots of events, and as I say, it's all by volunteers who support us. And it's just, I really believe that if I develop dementia as I get older, I want people round about me to understand. And if I walk down the high street in Felixstowe with my knickers on my head, somebody's not going to laugh at me. They're just going to say, "That's Heather, it's all right." Yeah,
that's a different workshop for me anyway. Having said that, and I do apologise for getting your name right, and the reason I did that, I interviewed somebody a little while ago, and her name was Helen, so unfortunately that's the way. And I did write it down to start with your right name because I know you. And with Heather's action group, then hopefully we are going to support the cause at our centre, giving out cheques in August, so that will be good. And we'll get to know the society more with a little talk that I hope you're going to do beforehand.
Yes.
Anyway, so how, what what kind of other therapies do you do, knowing that you're a therapy practitioner now, living locally?
Okay. I started off in 1989 training as a reflexologist. I was working in a private hospital at the time, and all the other nurses were doing courses, and I thought I'd better do something to improve my mind. So a girl said, "Oh, they're doing reflexology at my college," and I just said, "Bring me a form." And that is how I fell into complementary therapies. It was with my nurse training, I did believe that you went to orthodox doctors and they cured you and healed you. And when, excuse me, when I started the course, it was like this whole world opened up for me. And because I had no understanding of it when I started, I was totally open-minded about it. I just, I met people from all walks of life, from engineers that worked in Glasgow to a lady had a B&B in Arran Island. Just, people who had come to learn this course. And as we had to practice a lot during the course, I suddenly discovered things that were changing, even sharing with other practitioners. There were physical things changing in our bodies, and we could only put it down to reflexology.
Oh yes, wonderful. I mean, I've known lots of reflexologists and lots of people who have supported me, and I've supported them over the many years. And you can learn so much from people's feet.
Yes, and I certainly, if somebody comes to me and they're not open about sharing with me what's going on in their life, I can tell by their feet quite often there are things that aren't right.
Yeah, so that's just one of the practices you do. What about the others that you do?
Shortly after I trained in reflexology, I moved to England. And I developed I was told I had arthritis in my neck and shoulders, and actually for 2 years I couldn't do reflexology. So my fear was, how was I going to earn a living if I couldn't do that and I couldn't nurse? And that led me to hypnotherapy. So I learnt hypnotherapy, and that was just the ball rolling. So for the last 25-30 years I've constantly done different kind of courses just to see what's out there. Some things I use, some things I don't use, because it just, I have to have that deep down gut feeling that it's right for me.
Right, that's fine. Yeah, and anything else?
Yes, after hypnotherapy I learned past life therapy, which I love. I use it to help people find, it's a therapeutic tool along with hypnotherapy to help people adjust to whatever the problem is in their life. And any time I've used it, there's always been a benefit. After I learned that, and I learned Reiki, I moved to Suffolk 24 years ago, and I learned Reiki. I'm a Reiki master and I teach Reiki. I love the gentleness and calm that it creates, and I use it on myself on a daily basis. Whenever I was learning because you learn 3 levels in Reiki, when I was learning my Reiki 1 and practicing, I remember I had a cat at the time, and every time I sat down, she climbed under my hands. She would put her nose under my hands just to get in and get the warmth. So I love teaching that, because again it's very much about people rarely come to me for Reiki, that I don't say, well actually you can do this yourself, and I will encourage people to learn it and use it themselves. So therefore I teach more than I do sessions of Reiki. And then the latest thing that I had, latest 10 years ago, I was introduced to a thing called tapping. Thought field therapy is the original tapping modality, and there was a man called Roger Callahan who was a psychologist in America, and this was probably maybe 40 years ago now. He was treating a lady who had a very severe phobia about water. She couldn't shower, she couldn't wash the dishes, she couldn't go out in the rain, severe anxiety. And she had been going to him for about 2 years talking about this. And he had been doing some courses, learning about acupuncture, meridians, those kind of things. And he knew where the points were. Anyway, the lady was talking and she said, whenever I think about water, I get this awful feeling in my stomach. And because he had learnt about the mind-body connection, he said, just tap under your eye there, because that's the stomach meridian. And as she tapped and talked about her fear of water, she suddenly said to him, it's gone. And it was in California. He had his office and there was a pool outside, and she got up to go to the water, and he said, wait, you can't swim. And she said, I know I can't swim. I've just lost my fear of water, not my risk factor thing. So she went out, and since then and to this day, she has lost her fear of water. So he went on to develop this thought field therapy, which is tapping on certain meridians. It's like acupressure, acupuncture without the needles. And he devised what he called algorithms for if you had fear, you did it this way. If you had anger, you did it a different way. And one of his students was a man called Gary Craig. And Gary thought it was far too complicated. And he had been an engineer. And so he designed a thing called emotional freedom technique, which is tapping the points, but all the same, didn't matter what the emotion was. And it's been very successful, and I think it's probably the most known of the tapping therapies. And then about 15 years ago, a man called Robert Smith was looking at that. He did a course with Gary, and he designed a thing called Faster EFT. Now, Faster EFT uses neuro-linguistic programming, which is our thought processes and how we organise thoughts. So Faster EFT is more about the subconscious mind, and it's changing, and it uses tapping as EFT does, but it's a different kind of belief structure. EFT believes that these meridians that are blocked, and that's why we have problems in our life. Faster EFT believes that we are perfect when we're born, and it's only as we start to develop that we learn things. We get what you call programs, and you learn how to behave, and therefore, if something becomes outdated, then you tap it and get rid of it. So it's breaking down these programs and
quite
changing.
honest, yeah. And the listeners and the viewers, because bearing in mind that this will go out on the radio, on the YouTube as well, for people who don't have access to Facebook or that sort. They will understand this as well. And I do know exactly where you're coming from, because I do hypnosis rather than hypnotherapy. I do hypnosis, whereby I help people with anything from allergies to, but I do it whereby and a power suggestions, so I take them right the way under, so they're completely there, and then as opposed to a therapy, rightly or wrongly, then we're going through like a very deep meditation, and then I'm going through a power suggestion, taken right there and taken right, but I don't actually practice and do that. I still practice the auric healing. I still do an awful lot of that. having been able to see the aura from a very early age, not knowing what it was. But as all therapies are good, no matter what, and your point you made when you say that the orthodox medicine is all what we had at one time, or what we believed, and it was a cultural thing that we peer pressures through our parents and their parents, etc., ancestral way. But having said that, don't you feel it's so nice that more is being practiced and spoken about today without any inhibitions like there was a closed door syndrome, I call them here. I'm very much aware that what you're saying about the thought, the intention of the thought, it's just different words, that's all, nothing else. The intention of the thought is meaningful, and we do it every day of our lives without we don't realise things too much. It's when we're having programs like this and discussions like this that we get to a point whereby it's almost like we pedal backwards to give people tools to see what it's like.
I think if you are aware that when we're born with two fears, falling and loud noises. That's the only fear, and then we are taught everything else.
Yes, we are, yes.
So that's like a program, but we can change anything. If we've learnt it, you can unlearn it.
Absolutely, that's one of my sayings.
Yeah.
Whatever you can learn, you can relearn.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's all about perception and change. And with faster EFT, although we're using the tapping, we're saying to people, let it go. You're thinking of maybe a trauma and your fear about it. And by letting it go, it's amazing how you can feel your physical body relax, and then immediately you're taking somebody to a happy memory. Yeah. So you're breaking that connection. Yeah. Because it's all stored. If you think that our brain, 95% of it is in your subconscious. You learn to drive, and then you put it in there, so the minute you get into a car, it comes automatically. We do that all the time with everything.
We do. And that's quite true. And then we hear so many things about different therapies and different ways forward, and it's all wrapped up in, if you like, the new age that we're talking about. Some people say the age of Aquarius, but in actual fact we've been in that wave past the First World War, the Great War. But having said that, then it's just a new age. And I think that a lot of progression was made around the 60s and pushing it through. I mean, that's my area, our area. So at the end of the day, that they call it free love and all the rest of the things, but it's a case of a free understanding. There were new things came along that went back into our subconscious, like you say about the driving, and maybe at our time of life, when we come through here, it makes so much sense, it just comes through yet again here. So that's lovely, it's really good. How did you start?
As I've said, I started, I just fell into it because somebody else another nurse was going to do a course. I was brought up in Northern Ireland, did my general nurse training in Northern Ireland, and did see that as the only answer. So it was just, higher power stuff, whatever you believe in, that guided me to it. Because I didn't have any conscious belief in complementary therapies or anything outside.
Well, that's lovely, because it tackles the two questions that we always ask, the how, what, where, and it's the case of why you started, how you started. We've already covered where you operate, being local, and viewers, all this information will go on the credits that Heather wants to put on afterwards, and then to get in contact with Heather straight away when it comes back onto the Universal Energy page after it's been downloaded from the YouTube, or via me, of course. And Heather brings her lovely energies to the centre anyway sometimes, which is really, really nice. And she does help when we come to organising things for MBSs, and she's always there, so that's really nice. So let me go on to a bit about your beliefs. Because you came from Northern Ireland, there'll be a strong belief somewhere in your childhood, in your family, from peer pressures, whatever it happens to be, that you grew up with.
Yes, there is. And I was brought up in Northern Ireland as a Presbyterian. My father was a member of the church, and my mother, but my father was an elder in the church. From an early age, though, I never saw any, there wasn't any fear attached to religion. It was very loving. There was an old minister there who baptised me, married me, so, and he was loving and caring. So I had a good experience in my teenage, growing up into my teenage years in religion. And I remember him doing a sermon about disability, and I remember going up afterwards. I was maybe 9 or 10, and my minister gave me the name and address of the parishioner who was blind, and I went to visit this lady. I learned a lot more than she received, but I thought I needed to go and see. So I think that I wanted to help people from a very early age. But I was amazed to see this lady who was totally blind, and she was peeling potatoes. And I remember her saying to me, "Just check that I've got all the bit," and absolutely perfectly peeled.
Yeah, it's wonderful. We briefly talked about what I did and what's going on there. But I was manager of MenCap, as you may know, for a long while, working with learning disabilities and autism, and epilepsy is my great field in there. But having said that, then there's so many lessons that you learn from these. And yeah, like yourself, I thought there was no fear in religion with me. I was the same. I was baptised and christened and married in the same church. My father was very high up in the church, almost a lay minister really, because he used to take over from different things. Yeah. And we always had discussions of a religious nature with people in the house, whether it be the farmer down the road who used to drive my mother bananas because he came with his boots in after doing all the normal fun, and to political things that were going on in the church. And that was always done in a great respect and love and everything. And I don't think that the religion being underneath a roof is anything to worry about. I think where people make their own mind up and choices is what's behind it at the end and what resonates with them. Mm-hmm. And the same as this programme, what resonates with you, you take it there. So the faiths and the beliefs were there, so that almost puts you on a road, if you like.
I'm not sure whether it did or not, because when I went to nursing, I was a nurse in Belfast in the 70s, and I witnessed a lot of atrocities that other people maybe wouldn't have seen. I've been threatened at gunpoint, etc. In the hospital, I've been threatened by paramilitaries. So I think that, and my father died when I was 19. So I think that had an effect that I didn't distance myself deliberately, but that it just happened. I would say that now my church is outside in nature. Yeah. I choose not to go into any place of worship, and that is now a conscious decision. Yeah. Because of all the violence that I have seen at home.
And I quite understand that. I mean, when I was talking about the first on scene and doing that, then, and we're talking about what we're talking about earlier on, I think that firms are a point in your life whereby you know that there's something else, and if there's something else and it resonates with you again, and you understand, surely that if we give that to somebody else, whatever we do, whether it be on a therapy or whether it be on word of mouth or healing, whatever it happens to be, that's a good thing. And as we were talking about the centre, that because all denominations and faiths and people that don't have any faith at all come together, that's a stepping stone. It's just, in my opinion, that if we get to a stage where everybody's doing that, that's when we start moving on. But when we put labels on people and segregate them and do this and that. But I was quite aware that when religion is dictated, it becomes a controlling, and there is that fear that is there. And that's probably what a lot of people go through when they make their conscious decision, because basically we're told that if we do well, we go to a lovely place, we've got a direct link, and if we don't do well, we go to somewhere else. So if that's not fear, I don't know what is. But do you think that there are times in your life when your beliefs of your past has come and helped you with your everyday life, within your healing and your speaking to people?
Yes, because it has, I think, a positive effect. As I say, because I've been, maybe I believe that because I've spoken to lots of people who've been brought up in other faiths that have a large percentage of fear-based dogma, that I think I was brought up in a faith that was loving and caring and accepting. But I think another thing that has affected the way I work is I'm in a 12-step program, which is a spiritual program, and that has greatly affected me.
Right, okay, in what way?
I firmly believe that I have a higher power that guides me, and I can call on it any time. Mm-hmm. And I believe everybody else has got that.
Yes. That
connection. So yeah, I'm a strong believer and have been a member of Al-Anon for over 30 years, and that I feel that support and that guidance within that 12-step program. Yeah.
So therefore, let me ask you a question. Do you think that there's a connection, and if so, what, between being religious and spiritual?
No, I think it's quite, but in my head it's quite different. I think that you can be both or one, but for me, I see myself as spiritual, not religious. For me, the denominations would constrain me.
Yeah, I do understand that, and that's I think the majority of people who go through a situation when they're not quite sure at this moment, and we're talking to these people here at the moment, that's their opinions and that's how they feel, and I do understand that, but it's what resonates with us and things like that. And my opinion is spiritual is nature. It's all around us, and we don't need to do anything more than sit out in the garden and just go, or just look at the stars and everything. And we'll start to experience different things within ourselves. We live in this world that sometimes races on, and as it races on, if we don't watch it, we'll get dragged along with it. And so having time for ourselves almost conditions our mind as it should be, and our body follows, hopefully. Although sometimes that doesn't happen. But that's life, and that's the way things are here. Okay. So would you say you have a belief, maybe firm or not, that there is life after life?
Absolutely, yes. and it's comfortable for me. I also accept reincarnation as a possibility. I've no proofs. It's not. It just feels comfortable. I read a book. I think I'm not sure if it was Conversations with God by Donald.
Yeah, I read that. Yeah.
I think it was him that talked about we're like a tomato.
Yes, that's
and
right. That's right.
Spray the seeds, that's the God, and then we all go back. So it's that kind of feeling of not he's the important one up there. That's a childhood man with a white beard kind of thing. I don't see that anymore.
I just covered mine up.
But it's a belief that there is something more intelligent, maybe more, but it's part of me as well. So that I like that. I can't remember what your question was.
The concept of the life after life.
Life after death. Yeah. Okay. Yes. So when I read that felt really comfortable. Also, I don't think it might have been in the same book. He talked about children choosing their parents to come and learn, and I found that very comforting. As a mother, feeling that I'd made mistakes, as I wasn't given the manual and didn't get it right every time.
Do any of us.
But that felt really comforting when I was giving myself a hard time about it. So yes, I just feel that there are certainly things that I have learnt in this life, and yes, I do believe that I will go back. And as a past life therapist, having been through past lives, one of my strongest experiences was a session I did with a colleague, and I was in the time of Robin Hood. I was working in an inn, and there was a silk trader who went past on a monthly basis or whatever. I had 3 children to him. Anyway, he stopped coming. I went into poverty, and I could see myself in this marketplace, and I stole a chicken to feed these 3 wee boys of mine, and while I was in this session, I could feel a foot on my neck, and I was caught and I was hung, and the trauma of looking at these children that I had failed. But yeah, so I've had really strong experiences of past life. Now, whether it's my mind just throwing up these scenarios to help me deal better with whatever's happening in my life today.
No, we need to have a chat. I have been seeing and hearing since I'm 4 years old. I don't call it past life therapy, but I take people back through a hypnotic sense into past lives. I do believe my understanding of it is that this life is like a recycling. We go round and round and round. We don't come here to learn lessons, we come here to relearn. My opinion, this is my opinion again, because as you rightly said, anything that can be learned can be relearned. And I do think that we're at a stage whereby we are relearning things as we go along to get to there's no such thing as perfection, but to get to openness. Because open is a word that is bounded about very easy today. The good example of it is that a lady said to me during a reading the other day, that if you go into a circle or you go into a development group of some sort, which I many years ago used to run, whatever you do, you are dictated to, if it's in a place of a church or church hall or something like that, you are dictated to by the people who take the circle, whatever that happens to be. And my question for her was, what do you mean? Do you mean that they're telling you how to develop, or do you mean that they're in control and they're not allowing you to develop? What do you mean? And she said, well, when I sit down and I meditate, or I think of certain things, I often go off, you would say, like with the fairies. And I said, well, that's all it is, really. I said, if you are taking on what they call a visual meditation, you're asked to do certain things, whoever's asking you to do that will do it for a reason. And that will help you develop and slow yourself down, maybe, getting space that you need, and we're not on top of that. But that is a question that a lot of people ask, like when they go through the doors of an establishment. It doesn't have to be a church, it can be a centre, whatever it is. And you've got maybe angels over the doors, and you've got the words on there, we are this, that and something else, or maybe a denomination, I don't know, or faith. You are dictated to what happened over there. So I said, well, why do you go through the doors then?
Yes, I think we've all got choice.
And that's what I said. And I went through the choices and things like that. I said, I don't think you really need to do that. Just sit quietly and you'll find out your peace, or go into a garden, that type of that. But at the end of the day, then I do think that people think that it's the primal gift of a certain few, but it's not, as you said. I think, well, I don't. We all have this ability, and through dictation and control, as we have talked about, it's been knocked out of us. And sometimes when we have the time to have the choices, maybe we don't want to rock any boats.
Yeah, and that's because of our programming from childhood or whatever.
Absolutely,
yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So by discussions like this and more of it, you're giving people the tools, like we talked about.
I think that if you say you can't, you can't. If you say you can, you can.
Yeah,
it's all about our perception, and we can do whatever we want.
Yeah, we all know the start scenario where the mother with the child is screaming and they keep saying, you're this, you're that, you're something else, you're stupid, you'll never do that. And that child becomes that person.
Yes.
It's the same kind of scenario is going on. And hopefully things will change, you know. Can I ask you about, do you think that there is a perception, we've already talked about life after life, of a world beyond that we'll go to, or do you think that we'll still remain here but not in a physical, will be our essence and we'll still be here?
Oh gosh, I don't know if I know that. Well, I don't know the answers. As I said, I suppose I just have to say I'm open, because I think I am. I think that's the greatest ability I've got, that, you know, if you believe that, I will listen to you quite happily. I don't have to accept it, I don't have to reject it. I'll find out.
Yeah. I only put that question there to you because there's a lot of concepts today whereby there's a world of spirit and there's a physical world. And you must have heard that over a lifetime they're getting closer together. Whether you think that, or whether you think the concept is just one world, and we won't go far apart from we won't have a physical body, I don't think it's neither here nor there. I think we complicate things too much, whereby we are trying to justify things for ourselves, whereby as an old saying, just go with it, just let it happen and go.
I think my main thing is that I'm a spiritual being, but I'm in an earthly existence.
Yes, exactly.
And, if me personally spends too much time away there in that, I'm not living.
No balance, absolutely.
And I have to be in the now.
Yeah.
And deal with things, and progress.
We need to have the balance. I remember when I went over with the Hopis, the grandmother said to me, man who lives with head in the clouds bump into trees.
Yes.
And so that sums it up maybe to an extent whereby there are a lot of people that are out there, an awful lot, And they're lovely people, there's no doubt about it, and their concept is wonderful, and they're doing some wonderful things, but they don't have a lot of reality. And they're not grounded, as we would say,
Yeah.
and maybe they like to be up there more than down here. So I don't know what their concept is. But for now, it's been a pleasure interviewing you. And I know maybe you thought it was a bit weird, and I was going to say some lots of things, but I don't, as you say. Well, I haven't yet, anyway. No.
Thank you very much.
That's a pleasure. Thank you, my
Thank
dear,
you.
and you look after yourself. That's really good.